Welcome to the CTO Dungeon, the podcast where we bring you inside the minds of the CTOs. I'm your host, Bernardo Tavares, developer and the CTO of Levertex. And also hosting, we have my friend, Pavel, CTO of Flare. Pavel, quick intro.
Hello everyone, welcome to our dungeon.
Immediately on the spot.
We are here to, no worry. So we are here to explore what it means to be a CTO, to the good, the bad, and the ugly. And most importantly, how do you become one?
Exactly. So, and because we don't really know how we became one, we bring other people so they tell us their story. And today we have here Marcelo Manteigas, the CTO of Networkme. Marcelo, quick intro as well, please.
Hello everyone, I'm the CTO of Networkme, as Bernard introduced me. Actually, my background is not in software engineering, so that's a curious fact about me. I started with mechanical engineering, and then I dived into the world of development on my first job. I work a few jobs in software engineering, web development, data science. I did a bit of here and there, and then I landed as my current position as the founder and CTO of Networkme. And that's it.
It's exactly what we were talking. Like none of us actually studied informatics or engineering or anything like that, but somehow we are doing a startup and leading tech. So Marcelo, on your hand, how did you make that transition from actually coding to then being the CTO of Networkme?
Cool. I think I'll address first your first statement that we did not study software engineering. That's why we are CTOs. I think I know the reason why. It's because we are fearless. We are not so narrowed down on the details. So because of that, probably it doesn't scare us so much to think about developing software products, right? But yeah, my transition, I'll start from the beginning. So I went from mechanical engineering. I was very interested in like coding and AI and so on, like everybody. I went with the hype, and that led me to learn about those things, and that's how I started my career there. And then it was a lot more about searching for freedom, creative freedom. Right, I was in a job, as most of the people are, and when you are in a job, you have to do basically what you are told, right? And I felt a bit like I couldn't express my full potential, right? I couldn't do the things that I potentially imagined I could do. And that's where I found entrepreneurship as a channel to express myself fully. And because my background was obviously in technology, I managed to find a business co-founder. And I started my journey there, and I was the technical leader, and I still am. And I plan to continue to be, at least for the next few years. Yeah. But it was a lot more about like how can I express myself fully creatively, right? And I think the only channel for that specifically is to be an entrepreneur, and in my case I was a technical person, so that's how I landed as a CTO. I'm not sure if it's the reality for all the CTOs in the world, but for like smaller companies or early stage startups, I think that's the reality, and that's what moved me as well.
Yeah. That's definitely how I got addicted to startups in general, even before CTO.
That's really curious, Marcelo. So you mentioned one thing that I think is quite interesting, which is, and I'm not sure if there's any connection between there, but I kind of want to explore that, which is because you don't have a background in engineering, maybe you are, you don't have that fear, or maybe you are driven by curiosity, because maybe with a background in engineering, you have more exposure to all sides of engineering. And is it fearless or curiosity? Which one is the driver?
Yeah, now that you mention, I think it would be both, right? I think because I haven't studied like 5 years of software engineering, I'm extremely curious to learn more and to touch in different technologies. And that's why like my early career was a bit bumpy. So I went from software development, web developer, and data scientist. Then I did stuff with AI and so on, because I was really like trying to find the things I like, and I was curious about what I can do in this space, right? But then there is also that element of fearlessness, because you don't dive in so much into the theory, the complexity of what it means to create technology, right? I think you don't have that like mental blocker that engineers have of, oh, I have to do something, and then I have like all these other things that I need to think about as well, you know?
Yeah.
And I like the transistors, the chips, and all of these small, finer details that really don't matter when you are creating a web product specifically, right? But they have all that baggage, that intellectual baggage, which I think can be like a blocker for them to go forward and do things, because the mountain seems bigger, you know? I think for me, because I didn't know all of those things and I learned them in the job, right? At first, the mountain didn't seem so bigger, so I felt like capable to climb it. And then as I went through, the mountain like kept getting bigger, but I was already in the middle, so I just kept going, you know? So I think it's those two elements, and I totally agree with you.
So is it safe to say, so while you were talking, something came to my mind, which is sometimes for the right person, the ignorance is a blessing, because you don't have the full picture, and like, yeah, this should be easy, right? So let's build a startup.
I think it's exactly that. There is a term for that, which is I think it's information overload or something paralysis. I'm missing the term here, but basically
decision paralysis.
Decision paralysis, something like that. When you know so much about one thing, right? It actually makes it harder for you to make a decision, because you filter that decision through a mountain of knowledge, and it becomes hard to actually reach a conclusion, right? And I think because I was so ignorant about what it means to build a digital product, right? And I was driven by curiosity and all of that. In practice, it made it easier for me to jump at the opportunity and go do it, you know? So it's a mixture of ignorance, curiosity, fearlessness, all of that combined.
All right. So we have like one personality trait, right? So there, and Bernardo, sorry for taking over the conversation.
Go.
I'm really curious. So you touched on 2 points which I find very interesting. The first one is making decisions, and the second one was the jumping on with the fearlessness. And I think fearlessness kind of makes sense. How do you make decision in an unknown environment? Because let's face it, I struggle with it. There are some things that I don't know, and I kind of need to, I think it's this, so let's see how it goes. So, I don't know if you feel the same, or is it
You just mentioned something interesting, because you'd be surprised by the amount of decisions I make based on that finger technique, right? But actually, like, especially when you are in a startup, you need to make decisions very quickly, right? And sometimes you need to make decisions quickly about things that you don't know. And sometimes you need to make decisions quickly about things that you think you know, but actually don't know, right? And obviously it won't be the best decision, right? But the consequence of not making a decision is worse of actually doing something and moving forward, right? So
that goes totally against the engineer mindset of making absolutely sure that you are taking the right decision right from the start.
Absolutely. And I actually come from an engineering background, right? But I think I didn't got so many of the principles. Probably I was not a great student, right? So maybe that's the reason.
I don't think that's required, to be honest.
Yeah, but it's a lot more. You can always like if you are navigating a ship, right? You can always like turn back or move directions at any time, right? But if you stop, then you are in trouble, right? If you keep moving forward and you keep making those decisions of going now right, now left, and so on, and then measuring the consequence of that decision or the impact of that decision, and then have extra information to make a better decision later, right? You eventually you'll get somewhere, or eventually you'll get where you want to be, right? But if you don't make any decisions, you don't have the chance to learn with them, and thus you cannot make better decisions in the future. Make sense?
Yeah, I love it. And one final question, and Bernardo, please take over after that. So here's what I'm struggling with now at my current position. We have a team of 2, 1 AI, 1 backend engineer. And as any backend engineer, like any decent backend engineer will want to have things perfect, which we both know doesn't exist. Now, with what you said, I totally agree with that. So you kind of need to navigate the unknown and make a decision and hope it's good, and then iterate over that. Sometimes taking a step back, sometimes thinking like on the side, whatever the case. Now, what is more challenging is making the decision on or keeping the team and convincing the team that it's okay to either fail or to not know or to continue in this unknown environment. Because you, or at least from my perspective as a CTO, you navigate the unknown, but you kind of need to give more certainty to your team. And how do you do that?
Well, it's a matter of culture. It's a matter of creating this environment within your team where you are in a journey to achieve a specific objective. You are not in a journey to achieve perfection, right? And you need to make everybody comfortable that we are going to make mistakes, and that's fine, and that mistakes are good, right? And that you can learn from mistakes as well. And you mentioned like I'm a backend engineer and I want everything to be like perfect and so on. And look, if I'll tell you the amount of bugs that we still have right now in production, like you would be shocked, right? But the most important thing is to actually create a product that people are going to buy, And then when you have like the capital and you have the resources to actually invest on fine-tuning all of those things, then you can shift your mindset for making things perfect or higher quality, right? But at the moment where you are just trying to prove that your existence makes sense in the world, like that you have space in the economic tissue, right? You really shouldn't be focused about perfection. You should be focused about bringing things to market as quickly as possible. And that's something that your team needs to be very aware and needs to be part of the culture, right? Like you have to do something, like learn how to do it as quickly as possible, even though it's not perfect, even though it may be buggy, but you make it quickly so you give chance for the business to move forward and find their own space in the market. And then it will come a time, right? And that's what I always say to my team, like, look, let's not be perfect now so we can be perfect later. Because if we try to be perfect now, our chance of not reaching that point where we can actually do perfect things or high quality things will never come, right? Because we have limited resources, and that's the reality, right?
Yeah.
And it's about team culture in the end. It's about establishing a space and environment that people feel comfortable with the idea of being imperfect or failing and so on, right?
Yeah, love it. There you have it.
I totally see where you're coming from, Pavel, because it's like, as professionals, we like to do things well. We like to do a product people will love, and but at the same time, why put so much effort and resources in building a product when we are still missing a lot of things about how to build the business itself? So yeah, that's the balance right there.
Yeah,
I've been there. I've been on the side of I just want like to build something pretty. Let me build something cool. And but no, there's timings for stuff.
Yeah, there is I think a line from somebody, I forgot who, which is if you're not ashamed of the first version of your product, you are doing things wrong. And
is the founder of LinkedIn.
I think so as well. And that's entirely true, because if you like me, you raise the pre-seed, and that's a really small amount of money to do anything, right? And you need to figure it out a way to take that capital, deploy it, build a team, and be able to do something that will help you move to the next stage, right? And it won't be pretty, it will be ugly, but you need to prove something, right? And through the process of trying to prove something, things will get progressively better. And as you move the stages, then you have more capacity to make things even better, right? And I can give you a quick example. Like right now, we moved to a microservice architecture using like messaging systems to handle like synchronous writing, so like a CKRS pattern. That's what we implemented, right? It hugely improved like the performance of everything, right? Reading performance, because right now we write to an SQL database, we replicate the data on a NoSQL database. So reading from NoSQL databases is way higher, the speed, the performance than SQL database and so on. And that was something that I wanted to do from the beginning. But if I created all that, let's say, technological architecture overhead for my team, it would highly reduce the speed of developing new stuff and thus impacting how the business move forward. But now, since I have the resources, I have the team, I can actually make that investment. And I know that that's going to have a positive impact because performance will improve and therefore the user experience will improve as well, and etc. Right? But
now that
I
you
could do before, I can do it now because I have,
you can afford to do things a bit better.
Exactly. And then it will come a time where hopefully if we keep growing our business, like if we become profitable and we have even more resources, where I can improve even more our architecture and make things even more perfect, more consolidated and so on. Right? But you need to understand the stage where you are and like how is your, let's say, how perfect you can be at that specific stage and be comfortable with that and just keep moving forward until you reach a point where you can achieve that degree of quality that you feel proud of, right? I'm still not proud of the degree of quality of our technology, but I'm more proud now than I was, let's say, 1 year ago. So
that's usually a good thing.
Yeah.
Actually, I say it's a very well when we look backwards, even if it's 1 month, and we see, man, this was terrible. I was really bad at doing this, and now I'm better, and the product is better. So I think that's a good indicator.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
Pavel, what do you think? Let's move to the circle thing.
Let's do. I have one more question to Marcelo, which I'm actually quite curious to explore, and then let's do the last 15 minutes, like a quick run of the wheel. What do you think?
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right.
The wheel sounds mysterious.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot of things here. So
awesome.
I'm actually quite curious. We have here a list of questions that we touched on most of them in these 15 or 16 minutes that we've been talking. But there's one which I'm actually quite curious, which is, what is your best and worst personal habit as a CTO? And maybe we can exchange some ideas, because I certainly have one that came to my mind.
That's an extremely hard question to answer, but I'll try to give my 2 cents about my worst habit. So my worst habit is to underestimate the complexity and the amount of work that has to be done to actually release something, right? And it's not ignorance; it's, I think, over-optimistic.
Yeah.
Being over-optimistic, right? So that's my worst habit. I continuously keep creating roadmaps that I fail to meet deadlines, not because we are not doing good work, but because the deadlines are too tight, right? That's my absolutely worst habit. My good habit is that I keep curious, right? So I keep learning, and I think every second week I'm learning something new, right? So this past 2 weeks I was learning how to use LLMs and like the OpenAPI key to like create AI and chat interfaces and so on, right? Making those kind of things. And before that, I was studying new things about Azure, like new services that I could use and so on. So I think that's a great habit that I have, that I nurture, of always keep learning things, because I think that's my most valuable asset, and that's how I can grow into the role as well. Because if I stop learn technical things, right, I won't be able, or at least I won't have the authority to make technical decisions with my team, right? That doesn't mean that I make all the technical decisions, and I actually I really prefer to always bring the team together to think through things, and especially bring those elements that are best at one specific domain and ask them for their opinion and then hear them. Although I'm the one taking decision, I always take the extra step of hearing almost everybody's opinions and then reflect on that and make a decision. But if I don't keep learning, if I stop evolving myself technically, I'll be deprecated, right? Like a software.
Yeah.
I won't be able to fit my position of keep innovating and keep bringing like new technical things to improve our product and so on. So I think those are the two things.
Nice.
I'm not sure if I answer your question.
No, that was great. So being overly, I wouldn't say ambitious, optimistic. So I usually say, okay, this thing will take 2 weeks when I won't know for a fact that it will take 1. So I always thought that
you already have that system.
I already have that buffer into it, which has served me somewhat well in the past. Bernardo, what's your worst habit?
I was thinking about that. It's not about being over optimistic. I'm quite. I think I nailed my predictions normally. So let's say that one is a good one.
Okay.
Regarding the bad one, I think he's getting frustrated with when things don't go accordingly code-wise. If I go into this, when you are hands-on, of course, but when you go into some problem and the thing keeps, you keep getting the feeling that that's not how you should go, but you still press it because that at some point is like a matter of personal ego to nail that software thing down. I think that would be my obsession even. I would go all night just to nail that thing down before giving up, if need be.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. I definitely suffer from so Marcelo, you mentioned that it's more important to ship something not very good, not the best of your work, but ship it and get feedback on that. I definitely overdo it. So I would rather build something with, like, ship something with console errors and some bugs that I know for a fact they exist. I would rather do that and see what happens and maybe improve it later. So that's definitely something I suffer from, because at the stage that we are right now, where Flare is, speed is like everything. We shipped an integration, and Gonzalo is actually amazing, one of the developers. He shipped an integration into HubSpot like in 1 week, which is major. There's a lot of moving parts, a lot of integration, and I wanted to ship it actually sooner. But okay, so let's make sure that this actually works. But I definitely suffer from the overdoing it, so oversimplifying or overlooking some things that maybe I should take into account. And the good thing, I think I have a pretty good idea on how to dismantle a very complex task into, okay, so this is not needed, this is needed, this is absolutely needed, so we should start here, because without this we cannot do everything else.
Prioritization.
I wouldn't, yeah, maybe prioritization. It's actually like having a big problem and then figuring out how you're going to actually ship it, and deconstructing everything. So that goes into the roadmap and stuff. So yeah, if you need help, Marcelo, let me know.
I'll ask.
It's fine. I love this type of conversations.
Next time we should also have the beer.
Yeah,
we can do it virtually. That's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. All right, Bernardo, do you want to switch to the wheel of technical impressions?
Let's do the wheel thing. So introducing the wheel.
Yes.
We have too many questions.
Yeah, I think we overdid it a bit.
So instead of just selecting a few, we went crazy and we did a circle full of questions, and
Perfect.
we're going to let luck decide what we are going to ask Marcel.
Yeah.
And right. I think you can start. Let's just give it a go.
Okay. All right, Marcelo, are you ready?
I'm fully ready.
We have some naughty questions in here. Let's see. All right.
Hopefully I would get one of those.
Yes. All right. So the question is,
how did you meet your co-founders?
Exactly.
This one is easy. Okay. This one is not naughty at all. So out there I met my co-founder. My co-founder is Felipe Vieira, is the CEO of Networkme, right? We actually met very randomly on an entrepreneurship competition, which was hosted by Devium, right? And this was in September of 2019. And we didn't engage that much there. He was in one team, I was in another team. I like to joke and say that I placed above him, like I placed second and he placed third. So that's the running joke between the two of us. And after that, like, he just came and say, look, I'm doing this and I'd like to get your opinion. And then we went for a coffee and they showed me the idea and vision behind Networkme. I actually was doing something very similar back in university. I basically created a junior organization and we kind of did like an offline Networkme. Okay. That was the idea. We did like sessions where we invited mentors from the industry and they came back, they discussed with us, they did brainstorm and we connect and so on. So let's say the fundamental idea or the fundamental values were the same, right? But I think he was a step ahead of me and he was thinking about the digital link already. Although he didn't have like the technical skills to execute it, but he was already like very forward looking, right? And that really impressed me. And overall, like, as I get to know him and I get to know his backstory, he was a really impressive guy. And then we actually just kept having like maintaining this relationship over time, just discussing things about Networkme and so on. And then I think like 9 months later, he invited me to become his co-founder, and I readily accepted. And then we went forward to raise a round, and I think it was in November of 2020 where we actually registered our company, and we are together since then. And right now he's like a brother to me. He's like family, and it was awesome to meeting him.
Oh, this was too nice. I love Felipe. Everybody loves Felipe. I
love him more.
Expecting something more. Something more spicy. Did you get immediately convinced when he asked you to join?
No, actually no, because I had a conversation with him. Like, this was way before we started Networkme, where I was not even sure if I wanted to be an entrepreneur, right? Because I told him, look, I want to have a family. I don't think having a family is compatible with being an entrepreneur, right? Right now I have 2 kids. I still think it's not compatible, but I still am doing it. So
I don't know how the guy convinced you then.
That's where I'm not smart, right? But I remember having this conversation with him and saying like, look, I don't think I should do this because I don't think it's compatible with the vision I have for myself. And then he was like, no, trust me, it will be fine. You can do it. And then I trust him. And I went ahead with it. But in the end, it was, for me, it was almost a decision of desperation, where if I don't do this, I think I'll just be depressed, become depressed.
Yeah.
You know. But for me, it was really like a serious chance of becoming depressed. You know, because I was like less than a year in my job, and I already felt like I shouldn't be here. You know, I want to do something more, and I was faced with the decision of like, let me take the risk, knowing that will impact probably the personal vision I have for myself, right? Or not take the risk and then like have a bigger risk of waking up 5 years from now and regretting the fact that I didn't take the risk, right? So it was about that, and he was always supportive. Like, he is extremely supportive of my personal ambitions of having a family, and he was there all the time.
Awesome.
And it was great. Everything turned out okay. Like, it's hard. It's extremely hard. I don't think it's a great idea to have kids and create a startup. I wouldn't recommend it at all.
A lot of balls, huh? I think, like I used to say, I think entrepreneurship, it's very hard to make financial sense. Mainly starting up, you incur in a lot of risk of the things not going well. And doing that at that stage, I see many actually founders giving up because they were going to become fathers and stuff. And I always wonder. I'm not in that in that role, so I don't know. I always wonder: should you be giving up on stuff that you might regret because something? Look, it depends on priorities and.
Yeah, look, the things I gave up is sleep and friends, basically. Tell you the truth, right? I sleep really badly, and I think that's not going to be great for my health in the future to come. And also, like, I don't remember the last time I went out with my friends for drinks. Like it was, I don't know, like a year ago, something like that. So it was, or less, or even longer than that. So I think that's what I sacrificed mostly.
Something
and then,
gotta give.
Yeah, and then obviously, like, there is always a conflict between family work. Like sometimes I have to work later, but my family needs me as well, and it's like a running conflict that I have to manage, and that's extremely complicated, very hard to manage. But yeah, that's life I chose.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
All right. Next one.
It's going.
All right.
Story about a major technical issue. Do you have any in mind?
Yeah, no, this one is actually hard to answer because it's so many, and I have to decide which is the most interesting story.
So you can tell about the technical issue today.
Yeah, the latest one, if it's easier.
Well, I can tell about one today. I can tell one about today. So basically, we follow this indicator called conversion to first activity, which is basically the conversion from creating a profile to do any activity on the networking ecosystem. So let's say completing a challenge, applying to a job, registering to an event. That's what we consider an activity.
Yeah.
And we, in the beginning of the previous month, we made a massive release to production where we introduced two completely new products, and with that, a new content framework. And we expected that as a consequence of that we would have an increase on that indicator, right? Because the activities are better. We have more activities available because we can build more and like quicker and more diverse activities. So the expectation would be to increase, right? But actually it decreased. And then we had to research like why the hell didn't happen as we expected it, and actually find out that we forgot to purge the cache of the front-end applications.
Ouch.
So users were still getting they were getting the previous layout or integrated with the previous backend and the previous features.
That happens.
But the new backend was already rolled out, right? So basically what happened is that for some users, they were getting the correct version of the bundle, or new users were getting the correct version, but old users that were coming back and so on, they were not, right? And that was like a massive technical issue that we were blind to, and we couldn't understand why. And then we figured it out. We went to the logs and so on, and we researched it. Oh, that's why, because they are getting a 500 because it's touching the old backend, but old backend is dead because we deployed the new one, but they are still getting the old interface, which was integrated with the old backend because of the cache, right? And so we popped the CTNs and solved, basically.
How much time?
Longer than I want to reveal. It was something like 2 weeks and impacted like 30% of the users. It was measured. Yeah, it was measured. That happened like in June.
Let's hope nobody noticed.
No, for sure, a lot of people noticed. Like, luckily.
Oh, you're already rolling?
No, continue.
The people that pay us are our clients, and for them everything was fine, right? So only like students got impacted, and they were silent about it. So I think it turned out fine. No, I think the only issue is that we obviously acquired less users. Like a lot of users that arrived to Networkme didn't see the value moment, so they are not coming back. And but luckily we turned off a lot of our marketing expenses. So actually volume during that month was really low. So like total users impacted was low as well. It was not something extremely major. It would be problematic if it was in September, because that's when like we get 20,000 users coming, and it will be like a lot of volume coming in. And if there is an issue, then the impact obviously will be dramatically higher. But yeah, that happens.
Hey, it happens. Honestly, I think that's kind of a cute problem compared to others that I have witnessed.
Look, I only told you one of the 1,000, right?
The one today.
2 years. This was the most recent one, right?
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Okay.
That's
So
it.
let's run another, Pavel. I wasn't seeing you. Want to go again?
Yeah, I can
go.
roll the wheel again.
The strategies.
2. All right.
Okay.
Really curious about this one.
I think Pavel should be the one answering this question.
No.
So strategies to prioritize and delegate tasks effectively.
Does this question make sense at your stage, actually?
I think it
always makes sense.
That's...
You know, either like an individual level or at a roadmap, you always need to have like a specific or have clarity of how you should prioritize your tasks and things that you have to get done. So yeah, let me give you a specific example. Right now, I'm working on the roadmap for this quarter. I don't know if you guys already have those kind of routines, but we have a board meeting every quarter, right? So we actually have to present a roadmap every quarter, which I really don't agree that much, because at our stage, it's almost a month-to-month thing, right? That you are like on an online basis, you are deciding the things that you have to do based on the incoming feedback that you get from clients, users. You know, it's the same analogy of having to always be pivoting the ship, right? But yeah, so I had to prioritize like the set of things that we are going to accomplish in this Q3, and usually like the main thing that we look at when we think about working on things on the product is this going to move us forward, closer to product market fit or not, right? And for us, the indicator of product market fit at our moment is revenue, right? Will clients pay us if we build this or not? And for instance, we had a feature which is to basically automatically generate a landing page for our clients that create like I don't know, like training programs and so on. And then I had to ask myself, will that specific feature, if we launch it, will that increase the chance of having more clients paying us or paying us more or not, right? And then I have to talk with sales team. I have to ask them, like, what's your opinion about this? What kind of feedback you already got from clients and so on? And then I use all that feedback to decide if it's coming first or if it's coming later, right? Another example is we are implementing right now a new authentication system, right? Because our authentication system is slow. We use Azure DB2C. It sucks. I really don't like it at all. And we are moving to a new one from Clerk. I don't know if you are aware of it.
No.
Yeah, it's really new as well. So it's not so well known in the industry, but they have like ridiculously performatic service. They have like, well, I won't go into that. But anyway, and I have to decide, like, should I implement this first or no, right? And then I have to think, will this impact our business? If my authentication system is easier to use, it's faster, maybe users are coming in like with less friction, and therefore they are going to apply more to jobs. And if they apply more to jobs, then clients get more results. And if clients get more results, they are going to stay, and they are going to hopefully pay us more as well, right? So for me, when I think about implementing things, I always have to run them through this filter to see how impactful they are for our business at our stage. But it was very different 1 year ago, right? Right now, at this specific moment, we are at the seed stage, right? So we need to prove that our business can scale or can be productive. And look, you can be as fancy as you want with your metrics, but if the revenue is not there, then it's not going to happen, right? And for me at the moment, that's the main strategy to prioritize things, is running through this filter of, will it bring me more revenue or not, right? Or I have evidence that by implementing this, it will generate more revenue. Because sometimes I don't know, but if I have enough evidence, then I will likely prioritize it over something that is not evidently going to bring me more revenue. Make sense?
Yeah. Very interesting. mainly on the show me the money part
Yeah.
of the product prioritization. I think it makes all the sense.
Yeah, and definitely the market demands it, right? So you either make money or not. So
like either you are like a Facebook, but that's rare, right? Where you basically say, look, we are going to become the thing, and eventually are going to find the business model and find ways for people to pay us, right? But I don't think that model works anymore. At least not in our space. Maybe like in AI and so on, like these new coming things with more hype may happen. Mm-hmm. But at my specific space, which is SaaS, software as a service marketplace, right? It's not so. It's not the game anymore, right? So we need to prove that we have a working model now, right? And the best way to do it is to obviously develop a good business model, right? But then having a product that actually delivers on the promise, right? And generates results for clients. Okay. And yeah, that's it.
Very good. So, Pavel, one more, and then let's wrap it up.
Yeah, so we'll do one more question, and after that, we'll give you your 1 minute of fame to shout out anything that you want to tell to the world. So let's spin the wheel one more time. And this takes a long time to spin, actually.
I think we can speed it up in the settings.
Yeah, maybe.
What do you... Oh, we talked about this.
Okay. So let's spin it one more. You get a bonus one, Marcelo.
Perfect.
This is still right code.
Yeah, actually, I'm curious.
Great.
Marcel, do CTOs write code when they get the seed, or?
Absolutely, every single day. However, I do write less code now than I wrote like 1 or 2 years ago, because like as your team grows, you get the chance to specialize, right? And the role of the CTO is not to write code. The role of the CTO is to like make strategic decisions about technology that supports your business. Okay. But when you don't have resources, right, you need to do less of that and more of the operational part, which is coding. And let's say, like 2 years ago, it was 90% of my time was writing code. I think right now it's probably 30-40% of my time, right? And usually I will work on things where I know I will be massively more productive than my team, either because I have more knowledge or more experience, or because I understand that specific part of the code base better than them. But the pattern here is that as I keep increasing my team and delegating responsibilities to other elements, and they become the experts on that specific domain or that specific component of our code base, then I'm delegating more. So it's been like a linear curve. Like as I get more resources, increase the team, I keep delegating more. They become better at that specific domain. So that means I won't be more productive than them at writing or working on that specific part of code. And I keep doing less code, and therefore I have more time for other things. Then those other things are, well, working on the strategical part, but then I also meet with clients. I'm also part of the customer support routines. So I'm working with them, I'm listening to them, and that gives me also more time to gather feedback from my clients, right? And as a consequence, I will be better versed to make decisions, like strategic decisions for the company, you know. But yeah, I still do write code, and I love to write code. And actually, something that makes me sad is that I see that to evolve into the role of the CTO, I will eventually have to stop writing code, you know. And that's something I really love. So that's something that I'm not fearful about losing that component of my daily life, right? But I think that's something that makes me sad to know that there is no other path, you know. Eventually, I'll have to become a CTO that doesn't write code, and will mostly work on architecture, will mostly work on making those decisions, talking with stakeholders, and that fun of like tuning in for 5-6 hours just writing your code and listening to some drum and bass, it's gone. But that's part of it.
Yeah. All right, that was a good glimpse into the heart of CTO life from your perspective, Marcelo. We really appreciate your time. And now we're still learning, so we'll gather your feedback after this short meeting. But now this is your stage. Please tell us anything that you want to shout out, anything that you want to highlight. The stage is yours.
For any specific topic, or can be in general?
Anything. It's you.
You can thank your mom. You can thank your wife.
Okay, so I have to thank people right now.
No.
But well, I like to mention something. I think it's very particular of my identity. I mentioned this as well during this conversation, but I really take it at heart. The benefits of being a father. Okay, I love being a father. I don't think I would do it any other way. Like sometimes I think like, look, maybe it's not so smart to have, like, create a startup and have kids, but having kids is such a rich experience, that I totally recommend, like, to everybody that's delaying the decision and like they think that they cannot do things at the same time. I think my shout out is that yes, you can. Having kids is great. It will build you as a person, as a man and a woman. And I think it's the best part of my life. And I would like to thank my kids for enriching my life and making me a better person. So that would be it.
Damn. This
Thank
was
you.
good.
Thank you, Marcelo. Thank you, Marcelo.
No, I think, like, I mentioned this particularly because I think our generation is delaying, like, they keep delaying the decision of being a father or being a parent in general. And I think we lost that sense as a society, like how important that is, right? And I think my individual impact on society is I seriously hope that people get convinced that it's a great thing, and it's great for them, it's great for society in general. And hopefully people start having more babies because we need babies. We seriously need babies. We don't have an issue of overpopulation at all, not in Europe at least. But and we need somebody to pay taxes for our retirement expenses. And the babies are the ones that are going to do that. So yeah, that's it.
Here you go. So Marcel is inviting you to have kids.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can also, at the same time, have another kid, which is a startup, and that's okay.
Yeah,
one more baby.
Yeah,
it's part of the family. Yeah. Well, as you said, if you raise one, you raise two. If you raise two, you raise three. So if you raise three, you raise a startup as well. It's totally fine.
Awesome, Marcel. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Let's wrap up, and I hope this was interesting and that people can learn something with this really interesting talk. For me, I know it was.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Have a good one.
See ya.